King P here.
And Steelio7, and welcome to Season 5 of This Week in Metropolis.
Which has come really, really quickly, and we can't wait for you to listen to some of the forthcoming episodes.
Yeah, well, this first episode, we've got Garry Lever from the P.T Farm talking to us about fitness and martial arts, which he's been heavily involved in throughout his life.
And some exciting revelations as well that we discovered about him and his influences in that area. And again, we can't wait to share with you because we was blown away by some of the things he told us about.
Exactly. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to This Week in Metropolis.
So, we're doing this episode all on fitness. You've obviously gone into having your own, well, I can see your top you were in there, the PT Farm, and having your own personal training company, I guess. Tell the listeners and the viewers what got you into that.
Well, I've always had my background is martial arts. I've been involved in martial arts since I was 10 years old. Competed, travelled the world, met a lot of cool people and stuff like that. So I've always been involved in training, ended up getting involved in coaching as I started to get a bit older. I just kind of like saw the benefits that came from it, like how it enhanced people's lives, how it enhanced their mentally, especially. So ended up kind of drifting into training outside the martial arts, just general population, which grew into the business, the PT Farm, which we now run in Essex. So that's me and my wife run it. We've got a couple of coaches underneath us as well who also work with us. And yeah, it's just, it's come as an offshoot of the martial arts, really.
What was the thing that got you into martial arts in the first place? Was there like a defining moment where you thought, that's what I want to do?
I don't know, man. It's probably movies. It was like I was lucky enough to sort of like grow up in an era where it was, Van Damme and Stallone was at his peak, Arnie. Yeah. So all the movies which were popular at that time, everyone had these great physiques. Everyone had these phenomenal physical abilities. Everyone could fight, and they were using traditional martial arts in the movies. So really, it was just that it looked cool. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
I was crap at everything else, so I couldn't play football, I couldn't swim or nothing. So I was like, as soon as I found I was all right at that, it was kind of like I was hooked. I'd found my thing.
I was telling Matt off air that when I was younger, there's probably 3 years between us, I think.
About something like that.
And I said to Matt that I used to look up to you. You was a bit of an inspiration when I was growing up and got me into martial arts. And I remember us being at the front practicing kata and things like that. And, it was always, I always had this image in my head, and this is something we'll probably touch upon a bit later, but you must have seen the manga version of Street Fighter movie.
Yeah.
Ryu, right at the beginning, where he's up on top of the mountain, and I'm pretty sure he's just doing kata and things like that. I always had this image of one day you being out in Japan somewhere or Thailand on top of a mountain doing that sort of stuff.
It happened, man.
There you go.
Dude, I got under waterfalls. I did the whole sort of anything cheesy you can think of from that era of movies. Like I say, with Van Damme and dodging fire and that kind of thing in Kickboxer. It was all that stuff. I seeked it out and tried to emulate it.
Did you record the training montage though that you can watch back?
Nah, man.
That's what you need.
That's what I needed. See, at the time, like I did most of my time in Japan was sort of like in the early 2000s, so never had iPhones and easy access to video sort of thing. I remember the first time I went, I took it was like some crappy Sony Handycam, and I ran out of battery like 15 minutes in. But I didn't realize, because obviously the Japanese plug sockets are different to European and American, right? So I couldn't get an adapter plug for it. So I spent the whole time in Japan with no video.
Oh no!
I was gutted because I wanted to film so much. I've met so many people, like so many famous masters who died that year. It was my one opportunity to film them, and still training, and then that was it. It was gone. So I kicked myself now. iPhones weren't around then, because it would have been so much easier.
well, that leads in quite nicely, actually, to one of our questions, which is linked to one of the things that we talk a lot about on our show, which is technology, which over the years, things must have changed so much, not just like we're talking about now, like phones and cameras and things like that, but from a training point of view, the equipment. I mean, I remember being, I don't know, 15, 16, and me and my dad going halves on a multi-gym for my bedroom, which probably just held clothes hanging on it for a period of time. You know, I'm not the biggest of guys, clearly, and I'm pretty sure we just sold it in the end. But, you know, technology in training nowadays must be so far from where it was when you started off in that kind of personal training area.
Yeah, I mean, things go full circle, you know, and we're based on a farm, so my gym's based on a working farm. You know, we have access to tyres and sledgehammers and, you know, sleds. So we're quite old school, you know, we're still old school barbell methods, pull-ups, push-ups, a lot of body weight stuff, and just grabbing heavy stuff like sandbags and, like I say, tyre flips and that kind of thing. So quite rugged, quite raw. I kick out against the modern methods, really. I'm much more into kettlebells and, like I say, that kind of like more raw style. I don't believe in machines, really. We don't have any down the farm. And cardio, I'll mix in with the weight training, like, you know, fight training, bag work, very MMA-based battle ropes. So, yeah, I kind of like, I'll resist the modern stuff, really. And even the modern stuff is emulating the older stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of weird. So everything goes full circle, I think. And at the end of the day, there's only so many ways the body can move. You know, humans haven't evolved that much physically in, like, you know, hundreds of thousands of years. So, you know, it is what it is, I think.
The same things work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If it works, right? And success leaves clues. So,
is there anything that you'd think, like, sort of, what you said aside, is there anything that you think, I wish there was a something that I could do that with, if you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be high tech, but is there a particular thing that you think, I wish someone would make whatever it is so that I could do this easier, for example?
Oh, man.
Just put you on the spot.
No, not really. Not really. Like, most things can be adapted. Do you know what I mean? Even like, I mean, at the moment, like, it's a prime example because we're in lockdown, so people can't get to the gyms and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest problem a lot of people have is not having things to pull with. Do you know what I mean? So like any row machines, but you know, barbell rows, that kind of thing. But, you know, all you need is a rope. You know what I mean? Or a horizontal bar in your garden. So there's all sorts of things you can do. But I think it's one of those things. The more high tech you make it, the more it's like a car, right? You put all these gadgets on it, and sure as hell, like, it breaks, right?
Yeah.
You can't beat a wind-up window because you know where you stand with that thing. You know what I mean? If it breaks off, you just put a new hand. Exactly, right? It's just like, you don't need all these gadgets. Sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth, and the more kind of like complicated you make training, the more opportunities there are for you to say, oh, do you know what? I can't do this because I haven't got that, and it leads into the realms of excuses. So the simpler you can make it, the more likely it is you can actually do it. You know?
Yeah.
Did you start off, Gal, in you talked about modern kind of fitness equipment. Did you start off being one of them gym goers using all them equipment and then slowly realised I can do it a different way? I can go back to that old school? Or have you always been?
No, I've always been old school. Like, through the martial arts, when I trained in Japan and stuff, strength conditioning was literally picking up rocks. You know, you would grab a rock and you'd pick it up and walk around with it. It was like, it was as old school as it got. Yeah, it's mad. You know, you'd have these weights which were basically a stick stuck in a rock, like a toilet brush sort of thing, and you'd swing it round, and they'd have stone kettlebells. Barbells would be the wheels of a train, like, you know what I mean? Like these iron wheels. So it was as old school as you could get, and I quite liked. I like natural things. Do you know what I mean? I like the feeling of rock. I like the feeling of wood. Like, as raw as you can make it. You kind of earths your training. You feel part of something bigger. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, like, even the gym, I don't like normal gyms. I don't like the air conditioner. I don't like the lights. I don't like the music. I don't like the low ceilings. I like being outside in the elements with the rain in your face and the wind and all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? So, I've always been kind of like a nature boy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Cool, Matt.
No, I was just going to say, how then, and apologies, James, for jumping forward, how then has that been a challenge, like in the moment with lockdown and stuff, where so many things have started being like this on a video? Has that been something that you've been fighting with a little bit, or something that you're sort of at peace with, thinking, no, I can make this work?
It is what it is. Sometimes you need your hand forced to evolve, right? So yeah, I've always been very much against video tuition, especially in martial arts and things like that. But when that's your only option, you have to think, well, how can I do it in a way that's going to be good?
Yeah,
because,
a compromise almost, that where you get to the end result.
Yeah, absolutely. There are good things about it. You can, for example, I can now work with people who previously I couldn't because of location. Yeah. So I could be working with someone in Australia or someone in America, or all these people who have wanted to work with me in the past, but we haven't been able to, but now we can because of technology. And we have an app for the gym now where we get to program people's workouts, and it just helps with accountability. And they've got video examples of everything. So it's not like I'm just giving someone a bit of paper and going, right, go away and do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So technology has aided that. And even when we came out of lockdown last time and went back to training face-to-face, because we'd been using the technology, we found ways of actually integrating it to what we do to make it a better service, really. So, having my hand forced has actually benefited. So there's some good things.
No, that is, and I've watched loads of your videos that you posted on social media and things like that, and just the farm itself. I mean, I've not been there, but obviously I've seen the pictures. I've spoken to people who have, like Adam, who's been on our show before. I know he's been there, and the place looks incredible. Like, it's a credit to you how you've got it, and how you've adapted it to suit all your different things that you want to accomplish there. And it's credit to you, man.
Yeah, no, cheers. It's important because we get like the whole spectrum of people down there. We get like people who have never trained before, never done anything since school. And then we get like professional athletes and aspiring Olympians down there. So we've got like the full spectrum. So it's important that we've built something that can, be a home for everybody. And that's kind of like the vision I had with it, was making it somewhere for people who hate the gym. You know what I mean? People who are intimidated, really intimidated by the gym, or just don't like the surroundings, and, don't like the posiness and the mirrors and all that. We kind of thought, what is it that people hate about the gym? And we basically got rid of all that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I completely agree with you as well. There's something about, I mean, I know people who love to go to the gym and will literally just stand in front of the mirror to take pictures of themselves holding weights and things like that. And you just think, what? You haven't got even a drip of sweat on you. You've done nothing yet, but you just want to take a little pose and picture. It's just like,
just to prove you went.
Yeah, literally. And, I used to go to a gym, and other than the thing I enjoyed most about it was they had a swimming pool. I could go and do swimming because, it weren't really. I'd much rather go for a run outdoors than go down there. But yeah, I mean, even again, you've got two young boys. You're even getting them involved, which is amazing to see youngsters enjoying it as well. And do you do all your martial arts lessons there as well?
No, we don't. No, I'll keep that away from it because it's a working farm. It's like to have a lot of kids running around there, it'd be deadly. There's tractors flying about and stuff.
We've lost one.
Horses and stuff. There's too many distractions. So it'd be like herding cattle, literally.
Yeah.
So we keep them away from it, man.
So with you mentioned about being in the gym with music going and things like that. Another thing me and Matt talk about quite a lot on our show is our love for different types of music. Is there a certain type that do you ever have music blasting out there, even if it's kind of a bit of rock music or whatever? Yeah, man, music's a big part of it. There'll be days where you don't want to train, and it's that gets you through it, or it's that gets you hyped and able to go. So, my go-to has always been heavy rock or metal. Big sort of like Avenged Sevenfold fan, and back from old school Guns N' Roses, Metallica, so they kind of like feature heavily on Rotate. But a lot of hip hop as well. I quite like things like NF and Yellow Wolf, and obviously Eminem and things like that. So yeah, it gets quite varied down there. But music's kind of like, I don't think many of our clients
dig the music down there at all.
Really?
But it is what it is. You know, it's part of the experience. So we ain't
Serves a
changing that.
purpose. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. And you know, they grow to like it. So again, musical genres that people would never listen to, they're forced to do it, and they equate that with the experience of training. So they kind of like end up growing to maybe tolerate at first and then start enjoying some of it. So we're doing that bit for metal, man.
That's a good thing. I remember reading seeing this documentary, and I can't remember the guy's name. It's Laird something, I think. He's the guy who surfs on the huge waves.
Laird Hamilton. Yeah,
that's it. And when he trains, he has one song that he will listen to. And he will just listen to that song again and again and again, only when he trains. So that he builds that association. So that literally, as soon as you listen to that song, bang, you're in the zone. You're ready for it. So I guess it's a similar thing, isn't it?
Laird's a beast, man. But you know, we do the same thing with smells as well. Like it's a tool sometimes I use with people is attributing a smell to a certain experience.
Wow. So
sometimes, like especially like at the moment, everyone's probably stressed, right? I'm being really mindful not to swear and stuff at the moment. But this is quite a big topic. But like with stress, like a tool I use quite a lot is smells. So I don't know. There's something about that sense that can take you back somewhere.
Yeah.
Like memory. Do you know what I mean? So you smell a certain thing and it'd be like, oh man, that's 1998, and I was here and I was doing that, and it's everything. And you can almost touch it and feel it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes if you equate a smell to a certain mindset, whether it's through meditation or breath work or whatever it is, and it's a certain smell, at times of stress, you just need to find that smell, whether it's a candle or an incense or whatever it is. And it's like, puts you back into that mindset.
Yeah.
So it's quite a good tool for stress.
My 1998 would probably be Marlboro Lights and a can of Red Stripe.
Dupe.
Dupe, yes.
Definitely.
100%.
Man, seriously, it's aftershave, is it for me? You know, so sometimes when I go to the airport, I'll dig out like old school Hugo Boss or something.
Yeah. I still wear CK.
That was a Hainault Oak, you know, it's like...
CK1. I've got a bottle of CK1, so I remember... That was one of the first aftershaves I bought, and I loved it. And it is that nostalgia sort of trip.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like smells and songs, man. That's like the biggest things for switching your mind.
Yeah.
Now you've mentioned karate. You've obviously talked about your personal training farm. Are you still involved in the nutrition stuff? Because I remember you set up a thing about nutrition as well.
Yeah, so that goes hand in hand with the training. You know, like when it comes to changing body composition, or you know, everyone's when people write to you, it's like, "What do you want to do?" I want to lose weight and tone up. Mm-hmm. So basically, I want to lose a bit of body fat and get bigger muscles, right? Mm-hmm. That comes down to nutrition. At the end of the day, like you can't out-train a bad diet. So the nutrition's always gone hand in hand with the training, and they're both kind of like supporting pillars of the whole. So you can't really do one without the other and expect any results. So yeah, it's part of what we do. You know.
Do you think what do you think's harder in terms of someone coming to you and like starting that new path as such? Is there a common thread in terms of what one they tend to find easier?
Definitely. Like most people don't have a training problem. You know, most people have an eating problem. A lot of times alcohol, you know, and I think that, you know, that comes down to probably a product of how we live now. It's kind of like everyone's highly stressed, and sources of release, especially at the moment, are few and far between.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like people turn to food or drink most commonly. Do you know what I mean? As a source of enjoyment. So that's the hardest thing, because it's almost like you're removing a source of pleasure. And then what you're putting in place of that is training.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people, they're not used to training. They don't like training. So it's difficult. Yeah.
What's with sorry, I've lost my trail of thought then. I had a question in my head, now it's gone. What's your way of switching off and relaxing? What's your go-to? Is it gaming? Is it watching a film? What is it?
Probably music still. I'll still play guitar, and you know, badly, and
don't talk to me about that. I've got one sitting next to me that I can't touch.
Yeah, so man, do I don't know if you can see a good one.
Your electric one, yeah.
I love playing the guitar badly.
Let's form a band. While we're here, let's just form a band. We'll do that as well.
Do it, man. internet band. So yeah, I'll still go to that, and music to de-stress sort of thing. But again, I don't want to bang on about it, but training is my de-stress. I'll go for a run or something. That'll almost be my meditation. And if things get really heavy, then I'll hit the punch bag, and that will be a slightly more vigorous form of meditation, right?
Do you find ever that you'll be in the gym all day and you're training and you're doing what you're doing as a day job? Is there any time where you absolutely hate training? You just think, I just can't do this anymore. I've done too much of this today.
I don't know, man. Like, I think everyone has days where they're not motivated, but I think the difference comes between motivation and discipline. Yeah. Motivation will always be up and down. But discipline is like, well, I've got to do it anyway, because at the end of the day, it's my job. I don't really get a choice. Yeah. But like, for example, when it's cold and dark outside and you're tired, that's when it's hard. See, when the sun's out and it's shining and what I mean, and the tunes are on, it's easy. It's times like this where you've got to put your boots on and go outside, or you've got to get up at 4 a.m. to get it done, and it's raining. Yeah. It's like, do you know what? I'll leave it for today. But that's the difference between motivation and discipline, and it's important to have the discipline over the motivation, because that's the only thing that's going to be a constant,
Yeah. One of the things me and Matt spoke about on our last episode was about useless gaming accessories that have come out over the years, and we mentioned things like the Nintendo Wii, where you had the tennis on it and things like that. And I said, you soon got round to the fact that you could just lay on the sofa and flick your wrist, and you'd do exactly the same as if you were going full blown. Do you think things like that could either be developed to be better for a form of fitness, or do you think they're still detrimental to it and keeping people sitting on couches?
Or is it a gateway to people wanting to do it? Because, I mean, the one we talked about as well is there's the new one that they're advertising where it's like a resistance thing on the Nintendo Switch that you can use with a game.
Yeah, I've seen that. At the end of the day, right, I think anything that gets people more active is a good thing. So if you're talking in terms of video games have been blamed for a lot of bad stuff, right? Of keeping kids sat on their butt all day and, bad posture and that kind of thing. Yeah. So if you can use something that perhaps people are addicted to as a means of getting them moving and getting them active and getting them on their feet, then that can be a good thing. But I think the difficulty will be in making those games and then formats interesting enough for people to want to do it over Call of Duty or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Because they're like, I don't know, the stuff I saw with regard to fitness and exercise, it's crap, innit? Generally speaking, like if you had the choice out of doing that or going to play Call of Duty, you'd choose Call of Duty all day long, right?
Yeah.
Well, so, it's a difficult one.
I said, I guess like you said before, it's the association, isn't it? A lot of gaming, you're playing to be someone else, or go somewhere else, or do something that you wouldn't normally be able to do. So, you don't always want to do bowling or whatever. Pretend.
That's true. That's true, man. Yeah, but and then in the same breath, though, just to come back to something that James said earlier about Ryu on the mountaintop.
Yeah.
Again, video games, I think they kind of pushed me in a direction I ended up going. Because again, at them, like the big games of that time were things like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, even like old school Pit Fighter and things like that. It was they were the games I was into, and it was like all these guys had these mad abilities. And then you started reading books. It was like, people could actually do some of this stuff, not shoot lightning bolts and stuff like that. But, you know what I mean?
Have you not learned that yet?
But, some of these, like, how cool it was when Mortal Kombat come out and they were doing these death moves. You're like, damn, you can do that with your bare hands. And then you figure out, people could do that. So I don't know if in a weird subliminal way that was instrumental to me seeking these people out. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Probably though. There's always something planted in there, isn't there? That comes out. That's really cool.
That's what I was going to say. Was there, when you started going into, setting up your own farm and stuff, was there someone you aspired to be like?
Yeah, so my main mentor and coach is a guy called Ko Ong, who lives in New York, Chinatown. So it's kind of a weird story how I met him. I was fairly famous in martial arts circles at the time, and a video of mine got posted on his Facebook and he destroyed it. He's like, this guy's clueless, he don't know what he's doing, he's a wannabe, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote to
Was
him
that
and was like,
heartbreaking though? Because was that someone you looked up to at the time?
yeah, I knew of him. He's kind of like, he's in the shadows a little bit. Like no one knows that much of him, but I knew of him. And then so I found out that he'd like slated me, and I was like, oh man. So I wrote to him. I was like, what am I doing wrong then? And he's like, if you blah blah blah, you want to know something, come out to New York, see if you can take me out and all that business. So I'm like, damn. So I booked a flight. I booked a flight and went out there, man. And he lives in New York, Chinatown, and like he's old school as they come. He looks like a Bond villain. And I went in his living room and he beat. We had a bit of a challenge match and he beat me
in the living room.
And then yeah, for real, man, in his living room. And so then I became his student, but I earned his respect because I did that.
Yeah.
So then he's been cool with me ever since. But he's a very, very unique teacher. And there's a lot of, so for example, one of his students is a guy called Robert Kamen, who is the writer of the Karate Kid films. He also wrote Taken, the Taken trilogy. He wrote Kiss of the Dragon, The Transporter. Anyway, all these movies are based on KO or exploits of KO in his life.
No way.
So a lot of these movies are kind of like based on my teacher.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's mad. Honestly, it's like if ever you could convince him to get on a podcast, it might. But yeah, it would. I
think I'd be terrified.
Yeah, knowing what he's done with you.
Yeah, I'm terrified. I'm always terrified of him. But yeah, so he was kind of like the one I wanted to emulate. Not because of his like physical prowess or anything, but as a teacher, he had ways of getting me to do stuff that were far beyond my abilities.
Yeah.
You know, just through getting you to believe in yourself and the mindset stuff and that kind of thing. As a coach, he's like phenomenal. So that was what I've always tried to emulate and get across to people, that you can do a lot more than you give yourself credit for. You know, we all put limitations on ourselves, and there's the 30% rule where we only give ourselves 30% of our capabilities. So you need a way of accessing that remaining 70%. And different ways of doing that, whether it's music, whether it smells, whether it's having someone on your shoulder telling you can do it, putting the right wordage and internal dialogue in your mind so that you can always actually reach your potential. And that was the thing. That's what struck me with him, was how much untapped potential I had and how he helped me to access it. So that's what I try to get across to people, really.
Incredible.
That's really good. With your farm now, how long have you had the farm open?
I think 3 years now. We'll come up to 3 years. Yeah.
What's the long-term aspirations? Is it just to grow this more and potentially spread across, further areas?
Yeah. So like, I don't want to franchise it or branch out right now. I'd like to get a slightly bigger unit so that we can. I'm working with MMA teams now and things like that. So it'd be nice to expand and get a cage in a fully matted area so we could run all the fight camps there and stuff. The club I'm working with, we've got some UK champions and things like that. So it'd be good to be able to provide a home for them to be able to get their fight camps done like true Rocky style, just isolate away from regular people and, get into the mode, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like my next steps for it, really. And then just training other coaches to try and better the industry, because I think there's so many bad coaches out there that it could do with a helping hand to help improve it, really.
What would you, when you say no bad coaches, is there anything in particular that you think they're doing wrong as such?
Yeah, I think bad coaches is the wrong term. That's not a good term for it. I think sometimes, I think as an industry, a lot of personal trainers have quite a bad reputation in that we're quite narcissistic, quite ego-driven, and a little bit intimidating sometimes. So I think a lot of work could be done around that to make it more accessible to people. Yeah. To get rid of like the boot camp, like that image that people have where someone you're going to shake, you got to do one more, you got to do more. Yeah. It ain't like that, or it shouldn't be. As a coach, you shouldn't need to shout at someone to motivate them. There's better ways of doing it. So really it's just about raising awareness of how to actually access people's mindset and do it in a positive way where they're not scared of training. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Linked to what you just said, what I was going to ask is, like, you've said where you want the business to go. Is there anything for you, like you sound like unlocking your extra potential in that, is there anything you feel personally you've not achieved? on it? Or what's the next level for you personally in your own achievements?
So I've got back into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu after a long layoff. That was always my weakest area, was my ground game. Still suck at it. It's one of those things that it's just frustrating as hell for me. So I'm working hard on that, trying to get better at that. I'm now approaching 40 very, very quickly. So the window's closing on me somewhat, fighting competitively. So, you know, I still got in the back of my mind, maybe one more fight. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, there's loads of stuff I've never done, man. I've been plagued by injuries and just laziness at points. But, you know, I think it's important not to dwell too much on what you didn't do and to keep looking forward to what you can do. So
yeah,
I'm trying not to pay too much mind to any shortcomings I had, really.
Yeah.
And what about for your boys and your family? I mean, your wife, she teaches as well, doesn't she? She trains people?
Yeah, man. Yeah, she's a beast. In
a nice way.
Yeah, in a good way, you know.
Do you think the boys will follow suit then?
I think so, man. Yeah, like I don't force anything on them. You know, what they want to do, they're going to do. But I think their interests are varied enough. Like they do parkour, they do traditional martial arts, and they do MMA as well as other stuff kids do. You know, the swimming, the football, and all. So they're active, but you know they'll find their way. And I think with kids in particular, I think they get channeled down a certain path too soon. Do you know what I mean? But like football academies are the bane of my life, man. Like, because I think it cripples kids' development. They get channeled into this one area, and then they get to like 13, 14, and then don't make it. And then their hopes are dashed, and then that's it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I think certainly up to the age of sort of like 14 or 15, have a wider scope and develop in all sorts of different areas to stay well-rounded, and then eventually they'll find their way and find what they're good at. You know what I mean? And when their passion lies.
I completely agree with that. I mean, my boy's 4 now, and we were taking him to, or I was taking him to kind of football school things. I'm a huge football fan, so there's a part of me inside that really wants him to be a football fan, and he loves having a kick about and things like that. But putting him in that situation where all of a sudden I couldn't be involved, and he's just surrounded by loads of other people, and it scared him, I think. And it's kind of a big, you know, all of a sudden he was a small fish in a big pond, and not in any sort of big club academy or anything like that, but just, you know, being dropped in the middle of something essentially. And I think you forget it'd be so nice for them to have that same mindset and to be as interested in something that you are. But ultimately, like you said, they're individuals and they're going to find their own way. I mean, I didn't get into football till I was probably 7 or 8. So, you know, there was kids who we went to school with who were pushed by their parents to be, you know, in the team and, you know, playing every weekend and things like that. And I just think you're right. It's better to have someone or your children to be able to be more rounded and find their own interests, whatever that is.
Yeah, I think so. Like if you push it too hard, you end up resenting it, you know, and that's even, you know, true for yourself. If, you know, you can flog a dead horse, and if the passion ain't there, it ain't there. So it's about finding where that passion is. And then once you find your groove, things come easy. You know, I've kind of like learned over time to go with the flow and not force things too much. If you have to force it, normally ain't a good fit.
Where can people find you, Garry?
So on Instagram, on GMFL Coaching, and at P.T Farm UK. That's probably the best place, really. I'm on Facebook and stuff like that, but most of that stuff's through Insta. So yeah.
And is that the best way to reach you? Like if someone wants to drop you a message?
Yeah, probably Insta still. You know, just drop me a message on there. I'm on there every day, so yeah, I always respond to people. If anyone wants to chat or advice or whatever, man, or come down, visit and play. Yeah, we got you.
Good man. Well, we'll add all that into the description of the episode, so you'll be able to find it.
Yeah.
But cheers for joining us on the show, mate.
No worries, man. Cheers for the invite.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. Don't forget, if you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe on whatever platform you're watching and listening on, because in that way you won't miss out on any future episodes we put out.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms as well. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Give us a follow, and you'll be able to keep up to date with all of the latest episodes and posts that we put out there. But thank you for listening and watching.
And we'll see you next episode.